With so many voices telling you what to be, it's never been harder to find and become who you really are.
When I think of an alpha male, I think of a pack.
How to become a high-value man.
And you're taught to think there's something wrong with being masculine.
We're going to talk about masculinity as a whole and what actually makes a high-value man.
You've never been taught how to be a man.
Young men are under constant scrutiny. They're told they're dangerous, disgusting and untrustworthy by women, and told they're weak, broken, worthless by other men. They're in a position where they're always fighting for their identity. In a world that tells you who you are, how do you find that for yourself? It almost feels like no matter which step you take, you're never enough. And that's the point. When you lose yourself, you've fallen into their trap.
Welcome to Hustlers University. The first time in your adult life you're in the right place at the right time.
Marketing 101. Attack insecurities. But to understand this, we have to go back to the 1920s, when Edward Bernays changed marketing forever. In the 20s, women didn't smoke, and if they did, they were heavily judged. It was a taboo. You should leave the smoking to men. And this was an issue for the tobacco industry. 50% of the population weren't smoking simply because it was unfashionable, and this wasn't good enough. The industry thought there was more money to be made, and they tried multiple times to market cigarettes to women, but the cultural prejudice was way too deep. This is where Bernays comes into the story. You see, Bernays was a nephew of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, and he knew a thing or two about the subject. In 1928, the American tobacco industry hired Bernays, and his marketing tactics were like no other. Bernays believed that humans didn't make rational purchases, it was an emotional choice. Bernays hired a group of women and got them into an Easter Sunday parade. He told them to light up their cigarettes at the same time, on cue. Bernays also hired photographers to take flattering pictures of the woman and hand them out to major news networks. Bernays told reporters that these women weren't just lighting up cigarettes, they were lighting up the torches of freedom. He staged a political protest, and it worked. 10 years prior had women won the right to vote. He knew this would trigger an emotional response from women across the country. Bernays understood something that no one else in business did at the time. That if you attack people's insecurities, if you play into their deepest feelings of inadequacy, then they'll buy just about anything you tell them to. This then became the blueprint for future advertising, and it's what's happening to men today. Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit, Iman Gadzhi, Sneeko, Hamza, these men aren't prophets. They're not even great men, but they are great at something. They're great at making you feel like you're less because you don't meet the standards that they and society have slowly burnt into your brain. But what is the criteria of a true man?
Uh-oh! Wake up! You motherfuckers haven't stepped in the gym in 3 weeks!
If you're making $50,000, don't date.
Forcible suppression of opposition. So I don't know what that means, right? I swear to God, I don't know what the fuck a fascism is. I don't know what the fuck it is.
I cannot be what?
Watch Netflix. Eat the bugs.
The mentality of young men is weird. With the internet being such a normal part of our daily lives, it's kind of ruined our perception of reality. A small but extreme group of people have somehow changed the way young men interact with the world. Earlier this year I was on Discord and had a few discussions with this guy. He was maybe 18, 19, and we talked about a few different subjects, but what stood out to me the most were his opinions on dating. He'd say things along the lines of, if you're under 6 foot, there's no point in dating. If you have no clout, there's no point in dating. If you can't drive, if you don't have a car, there's no point in dating. I'm not jacked.
If you're not a high value man, then you have no chance.
Dating. I can't dress.
Why you dating black men?
My shit's only 8 inches. What do I do?
He was trying to say that average guys have no chance, and people agreed with him. We've been brainwashed into believing that the only things that give us value are what we have, what we can provide. And this has led to some weird ass shit. the looks maxing, face smashing, leg surgeries. We've come to a point in society where people are so insecure that they're smashing their faces with hammers to look better. There's even a thing called rope maxing, where people log out of life in hopes that when they respawn their character's better. Every guy seems to be on a self-improvement journey, which is good. Growth is something everyone should want for themselves, but is it something you want, or is it something you've been told you need? When will you be rich enough? When will you be ripped enough? When will you be handsome enough? When will you realize that your self-improvement isn't self-improvement? It's self-torment. It's a manifestation of your insecurities because you've been told your whole adult life that you aren't good enough to be loved unless you meet the unreachable standards of what it is to be a high-value man. And it goes right back to being manipulated so that people higher up can sell us solutions. It works like this. This is you. And the standard has been set so high that you'll never reach it. Even the gatekeepers who set the standard don't meet them. Come on. These guys don't even have a backbone. Or morals. And the answers seemingly come from the people who are setting the standard. So you buy one of their courses and you realize it's all a lie. And then the cycle starts again. But how do we break out the trap of insecurity that society has taught us?
Status anxiety, a social condition that can occur when people compare themselves to others and worry that they are not meeting society's standards for success.
The definition of a high-value man has changed time and time again throughout history. Let's play a game. In how many of these societies would you have been deemed a high-value man?
Sparta, 400 BC.
Honored members of Spartan society were fighting aggressive men with big muscles, and they had to have sex with men too, so they were hypersexual with a bi at the start. They didn't like luxuries or business, hairdressers, entertainment, or even money. Shit, these niggas couldn't even shop without being dishonored. They only killed, even their sons if they were weak. That's pretty reasonable to me.
Western Europe, AD 476 to 1096.
They wouldn't kill, not even animals. They shunned all material goods and owned nothing, living in unfurnished huts and sleeping on the floor. They even suppressed their sexual feelings and were said to have extreme physical modesty. Saint Casimir was said to have turned down a virgin placed on his bed by his family. You can do that, bro. Just be real.
Western Europe, 1096 to 1500.
After the First Crusade, knights were the admired people of Western society. Knights were wealthy, lived in castles, slept in beds and ate meat, and really enjoyed killing unchristian people, especially Muslims. Sounds like a man to me. Am I right?
England, 1750 to 1890.
You didn't have to know how to fight at all. It was important to stay well maintained and know how to dance. You had to get married to one, but it was okay to have a sneaky link in town.
Brazil, 1600 to 1960.
Men of the highest status spoke the least. For the Gen Alpha watching, they believed yapping minus aura points. Just like Chad, you don't dance. You don't even raise your children. And the strongest men kill jaguars. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I don't think you're making it. The more jaguars you kill, the higher chance you have of becoming headman. Pause. The most shameful thing a guy could do is help his wife cook. As the determinants of high status keep altering, so too, naturally, will the triggers of status anxiety. In one group, we worry about our ability to throw a spear into the flank of an animal. In another, our strength on the battlefield. In the next, our devotion to God. And in the fourth, our ability to make money. You have to understand that your worth, your value, has nothing to do with what society has made us think is important. Because none of that is real. And I get it. It's hard. As someone who's going to be 25 next year, sometimes my heart gets heavy. And social pressure gets to me. I think I should have a complete picture of what I want from life. One of my favorite quotes from Status Anxiety is, "We have been made to live before we know how." At how limited our understanding of ourselves and others is, at how great and catastrophic are the consequences of our actions, at how pitiless and uncompromising our communities can be in response to our errors. It's very common at this age to feel the burden of our internal clocks pushing us towards making decisions, because we feel like we're running out of time. regardless of if what we're doing is right or wrong. The question is, if we don't know what we're doing, or who we are now, when will we know? The possibilities we have are infinite, and sometimes that makes it hard to make decisions. In order to choose the path that will lead you to the right destination, you have to make decisions based on the person you want to be. The choices you've made can't be changed. They've led you to this point. The choices you can make are infinite, but they don't exist yet. It all depends on what you're doing right now. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one.
One day everything ends, and so will you. So what are you gonna do now?
Stop telling people who they have to be. You need to figure out who you need to be. You need to figure out what your values are, what your morals are, what your social circles, but you got no idea. You ain't got no clue. That's why your friends keep changing, your values keep changing. You're all about judging people and what haram. Meanwhile, you doing drugs and sleeping with hookers. Nobody trying to listen to you, bro.